Right, I'm getting ready to work on the B side. All the series connections have already been done on here, so the only thing I've got to do is the parallel ones. Have I? Oh, this is so hard to work out. Even for me. I'll take the tape off and we'll have a look. All the tape's off. I've wiped it all down, or I've cleaned it all down with some isopropyl alcohol. There are a few places that I need to clean up a bit more. When you've cleaned it up, if you're using a kitchen towel or something like that, where you've welded, it actually sticks on. So get something like a stiff brush. These are only bloody dirt cheap ones. Get a stiff brush and wipe it and just screw all the crap off. Cleanliness is a very important part when you're spot welding. You don't want any residue left on it. So make sure everything's perfectly clean. And you don't get as many sparks, and you get a much better weld, and you don't need to turn the power up as much. Now the other thing as well, let's zoom out, that's the one. This is my new battery. This is actually it's not two of the 3 batteries, it's 2 of the 4 batteries that I had. 3 of them were in my bike, and then 1 of them, that's not making sense. Anyway, these are the same batteries as I had in my bike, but I've split them and I've made 2 3S packs. So now I've got 3S 64 ampere hours. No, 1632, 64 ampere hours, and this is capable of delivering 960 amps. So I don't want to put my tongue on that. So this is my new spot welding battery, and also to power everything that I've got, but you know. So what I'm going to do, looking at this logically, now I've done the other side, which is the parallel and the series. I've already done this side, which is series. I'm going to do the parallel of these. So all I've got to do is go from there to there to there to there to there to there, and then there, you know. So that's all I've got to do to this battery. Then it's done, and then I might do it first. Actually, just wrap some tape around it just to keep it all in place, because it's, as you know, I haven't taped it up because I don't see the need to. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's this side that I've got to be careful of, because of getting it into the battery, into the ammo box. Right, I'm going to start welding. I need to get some tape around here just to hold it in place, because this is, yeah, it's not, I don't know what to use. Masking tape, where is it? Found it. So I'm just going to get some masking tape around the outside, just to hold it in place and make sure. I really don't want anything to move. Just so you know when to sharpen the tips, I don't know if you can see this weld here. It's not, you can see how it's not as dark as the rest of them. It's hard to explain. Although it does seem perfect, it's probably, well, it is okay, but it's not as dark as the rest of them. You want a very slight amount of burning left. Now these tips, if you can see that, there's not a lot left on them. I've probably got about 2 millimeter square on the tip. Ideally, I mean, I'm running a lot of power, a hell of a lot of power. I'm running about something like, is it 1,000 watts? I think I'm getting out of this. So you really do want to keep your tips sharp. So what I'm going to do is get my Dremel and sharpen them. There you go. You'll be amazed at the difference that a sharp tip makes. The other thing as well that I've noticed with these things is, I mean, you don't want to touch that tip when you're welding because it'll hurt. Believe me, it'll hurt. Especially on this one on mine, the probe itself keeps going back into the wire somewhere. So occasionally I have to keep pulling that out with pliers. I thought it was the heat shrink that was coming down, but it is, well, it is as well. The heat shrink does come down a bit, but it seems like it's more like that's going in. Yeah. Anyway, off we go again. It's getting a bit warm. Things do start warming up, especially these tips. So it may be worth actually having a break, because it gets my fingers, arthritis and shit, you know. Oh, incidentally, this finger here, well, I've got no fingernail or anything on it. I've got no feeling in it actually. About 20 years ago, I think it was, I was hammering something with a cold chisel, I think, and I smacked it and I hit it and trapped it between that and a piece of wood, and it smashed the whole of the end of my finger. And they said that the nail had never grown back, but it has grown back, but it's just paper thin, so it just comes off. That's why that finger, that's why I always hold things like this, because I've got no feeling in that finger. Anyway, I'm going to have a break and I'm going to come back and finish the rest of it off. It seems to be near enough held together. I just hope and pray that it fits in the case when I've done it. That's one battery finished. It should be nice and strong now. Apart from places like the end pieces, which I know are going to be like that, but that's fine, because I'm going to put some neoprene over the top and the bottom anyway. So I've got my box and I've got my batteries, and you're going to witness this going into this perfectly first time, not a problem. Hang on. Now the one thing I don't want to do is short anything out, because that'll end up in a bloody... I dread to think. No. No, I need to tape them together first, hang on. That is a bit tight in there.
That's what she said.
The idea of this is it's going to be butted up against or closer to this. So what I'm going to do is the battery will start about there. I'm having neoprene padding over there, and then I'm going to cut a piece out about this much and then re-weld the side back onto about, it's going to be about there. So yeah, that's in there. So that should push up against there. That'll make the batteries 100% tight. They're not going to move anywhere whatsoever. I'm not going to have any wear marks or anything. It's just the side movement that I've got to think about, and also I've got to put the battery terminals and the balance leads and everything else on there as well. So the other thing that's going to go on there is this. The BMS is going to fit on the top of there. That is perfect, perfectly lined. It's perfectly balanced up. Everything is perfect. So that's going to go on the top. So now I've got to get this out. I've decided what I'm going to do. I've taken the tape off again, purely because I want to wire the BMS up, although it's not this one. No, it's this one. It's this. Oh God, be careful, bloody wires, Tony. It's this one, but I've got to take the what's it off there, and I've got to put it on here, because I can't have these heat sinks on here, because it's going to be too big. I'm just going to have to hope that it doesn't overheat. So just a word of warning, if I was to drop that on there, I would end up in a bloody big fire. It would blow, believe me. So I'm going to take that off, and then I'm going to wire the BMS up. Oh, bloody wires. Now, here I've got a box, and in my box I've got all my wires. These are the ones that I'm going to use for the bike. So I've got various different kinds, sizes and everything else, colours, thicknesses, those. These are going to be the series connection between, or are they? Are they 12? No, that's 10. I need 8. No. This is 6AWG, which will probably run your house. I'm going to make the second pack, and then I can have them both on here, and I know roughly whereabouts everything's going to go, and then I can show you how to wire the BMS and put all the heat, the temperature sensors and everything else all in, because the battery's going to be completely separate to everything else, and I'll just have one big power plug. So I'm going to make the other pack now, which is going to take quite a few hours. Yeah, I'll do that, and then I can show you how to wire BMSs and everything else. Oh, this is the second. I warn you, if you're going to do this, you better be prepared for a long process. And the other thing as well, if you think you've cut enough nickel strips beforehand, you haven't. Believe me, I think I've spent about an hour or maybe 2 hours cutting strips, and that's all I've got left now. So I've got to cut some more, but I can't remember where I put my nickel strip. Actually, that's a thought. Where the hell have I put that? Anyway, here's the series done. So I've got to do the parallel part now. While I'm doing this, I want to warn you, well, not warn you, I want to advise you These two probes here, if you were to push the pedal now, you probably wouldn't feel it, because it's only literally 12 volts. If you're using a spot welder with capacitors and God knows what else in, then yeah, you probably bloody feel it. But with these, you just won't feel it. So don't ever worry about getting your fingers too close to this, apart from you're going to get a shock off it. Well, you're not going to get a shock, you're going to get burns off the weld itself, but you haven't got a problem with touching these two probes. The only thing that you may have a problem with is resting your arms, especially if you're doing a 72 volt battery. If you're resting your hands or your arms or something on top of here, you will actually feel it, because I can feel a slight buzz off these. Well, not a buzz, I can just feel it in my fingers. So it's just one thing to bear in mind, that if you're running on 72 volts and you're doing this, you are going to get a shock off it. So don't rest your arms on it, make sure you've got your fingers on. It's not this that's going to hurt you, it's that. I'm a bit worried, to be honest. I can't explain this. I don't know if you can see the difference. This is stuff that I got from Germany, pure nickel apparently. When you're welding it, it sparks like crazy. This stuff is the stuff from the UK, which is a completely different colour, and it doesn't spark at all. So I'm a bit worried that this is actually nickel coated, not pure nickel. That's the last thing I want. I don't know if you can see the difference. That is shiny, that isn't. That welds a lot better, and I've had to knock it up to 13 millisecond pulse as well, just so as you don't make the same mistake as me. There's fake or tin, nickel plated tin, and pure nickel. The first lot that I got, I bought from Germany, and it said nickel strip. I didn't realise that it was actually nickel plated tin. And then the second one I got from the UK, which was 100% pure nickel. I've always been, believe it or not, I've always been using nickel plated stuff on all my tests and absolutely everything. It's all been nickel plated, so all this is all nickel plated, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know whether to strip it off and start again or what. It's a big job, and I don't know. I'm going to have to suffer it. In my tests, like I say, these have handled 70 amps, so it'll be alright. Won't it, Tony? As you know, I've just got a shock off this. As you know, I've nearly done this. I've double layered everything, absolutely everything. So I know damn well there's going to be no or very, very little loss due to heat, I hope anyway. A few tips that I've discovered now I've been welding these, and I've done, how many? You see that? 4,621. Now I've been doing this for so long. When you cut your strips, number one, be very, very careful. Make sure you've got a bloody firm grasp on them. Don't drop them, because if I was to drop that across a positive and a negative on, that positive, that negative, it's going to knacker something. That'll fuse, immediately burn that out, but you're going to knacker one of those batteries, and to get that out is a nightmare, but it can be done. The other thing as well, I flatten all these, every single one of them. When you've got them, I've got to be careful. When you've got them all stacked up and everything else, make sure that you've got only one of them, because I've actually had it where I've had two together like that you can't actually see that there's two, and I've gone to put it on there, and one of them has just dropped. Yeah, now that wouldn't have been very good. So make sure, when you get £10 notes and stuff that you do that with it, whatever. Yeah, just make sure that you only pick one up, because you can drop the other one. Now the other thing as well, have plenty of brakes, because these do get warm, and your fingers get warm, your arms get warm, and everything else. And make sure your tips are quite sharp. A bit of blunt ain't gonna hurt, but you need to have sharp tips. You won't get a shock off this. If I was to press the pedal now, I probably wouldn't even feel anything, because it's only 12 volts which is coming off this battery. It's just the ampage that actually, it's massive amps. It must be around about, I think it's about 200 amps it's kicking out. Well, this is anyway, don't know about yours. The other thing as well, when you get these, there's one piece of heat shrink on it, which is nowhere near enough, because you need to keep the heat away from your fingers, because they do get hot. So I've just got loads of heat shrink, loads of layers, and it's perfect now. But I still feel the heat through that, believe it or not. So there are a few tips that I've found along the way. There's not a lot else apart from make sure you keep everything clean, make sure you're thorough. Don't get complacent, for God's sake, that I've done this already, blah, blah, bang. The next thing you know, you've knackered cells, you've burnt things out. I've just got a shock off that again. They're the things that I've found along the way. Oh, the other one is, don't put your... that I can't feel, but that you can, because you've got sweat coming out more out the outsides of your hands than you have on the inside for some reason. I didn't even know that.